Everybody, welcome to another episode of Personal Mastery Training, the Alliance. As you know, we're here to add value to you. Each podcast, we want to add value to your life. We're big believers. I remember many years ago, I took my minor. One of my minors is philosophy, and I love philosophy because they just always ask questions about life and didn't weren't looking for answers because there's no truth, no answer to one thing. Everybody has a different experience, but at least it gave people a chance to think. That's why we're enjoying what we enjoy. And questions, curiosity, is why we're enjoying our modern life. If people weren't asking questions, we'd still be who know what, right? In a cave or whatever it might be. So this is what this is all about: poking you, posing some concepts, some ideas, and we just want you to think about it, expand on it, journal on it, disagree with it, agree with it, do something, but don't just sit and let life roll you over. So today we have three of us on the call: Dr. Charlie Cartwright, Raymond Janak Tanya, and myself, Alvin Brown. So let's roll it out. Each week someone brings the topic, we call it the main meal, because we cook up some soul food for you. And the someone bring it today is Ray. Ray's been away a bit, handling some family business, important, hanging out with the kids and supporting his family and business, and he's back, fresh, ready. So he's got a new topic for us. Ray, let's go.
All
Tell us
right.
what's up.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, guys. Listen, in life, the more I move forward, the more things happen. I discovered and definitely live this passion, of helping entrepreneurs in general go from overwhelmed operators, as I say, so they can transform into true leaders who are first confident, purposeful, and in command not only of their business, but most importantly of their life. Okay. And the reason why is that I see that most people in general, maybe it's through our school system, maybe it's through life in general, we are trained to manage, but we are not trained to lead. Okay. And leading is such an important thing if we're going to create teams that win ultimately, and if we are going to be truly in command of our lives and make a true impact around us. This week I was away for a couple days at a convention, meeting a lot of different franchisees, okay, with a network that's exponentially growing. And through this growth, okay, just like anywhere else, even with a family, through a friends group on a team, whenever you have more and more and more members, it's normal to have some friction once in a while because people have different point of views. I don't see that as anything negative. I see that as a positive if you lead the right way. Okay. And the first step to that, and the message that was being shared to everyone in the room, is that it starts with clarity. Okay. Are we clear on what our vision is? Are we clear on what we're asking people? Are we clear on how we deploy things on the field that will affect other people? So it definitely starts with that. I believe, Alvin, this is your first pillar, also, correct? But after that, a very important thing that we forget oftentimes is belief. I would even call it faith, because whenever you're part of a team, okay, let's say I used to play football. It's going to be my first football analogy today. But I might not be best friends, with the coach, but I need to believe in what the coach calls. Okay. I need to believe that the coach is putting me in the best position possible and best situation possible to have success and to contribute to the team. And when my number is called, I need to execute. Okay. I need to have that belief. This is what truly gives it strength. This is how teamwork is really based on. It's belief. I truly think solidifies solidarity. Okay, solidarity is something that's so important, and from there are a million different points that we can talk about, but I just want to stick on that one thing for now: belief. Okay, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in your team? Do you believe in the plan? And the plan might not be perfect. Some things will happen here and there will be challenges, but do you believe that enough to show up anyways, to show up regardless, whether you agree or not, so you can figure that out later, but you create momentum together. And that starts with the leader that needs to instill that belief, okay, in others, but first you need to have that belief in yourself. Okay, you need to have that belief in yourself. One thing I find also very often is that there's a lot of people just through experience and through what they're doing every single day, they build confidence. Okay, they build confidence. But one thing that's foundational and that lacks and that really needs to be worked on, it's self-esteem. Because behind all those layers, if we lack that self esteem, it's very difficult to ultimately really believe. Okay, I can say certain things, I can show up in a certain way, but do I think I am the person? Do I think I deserve this? Do I think that whether someone agrees with me or not, I'm still doing it for the right reasons and I can sleep at night? That's something that's so important and foundational within the team if you're gonna want to be a leader, because that's also part of leading. Not everyone will agree, okay? But sometimes you have to be in the back encouraging, but sometimes you have to go to the front to pull and create that momentum so that people can see the vision, even though they might not see it from the beginning, right? That self esteem part is so important and it's tied to that belief in yourself, to that belief in what you're doing. It needs to be so strong. It needs to be stronger than anything, really, if you're going to pull people along. And I'll give this last example, even within a family, as a couple. Um, if I make this decision that's going to affect our family, okay, I need my wife to be on board to really just believe in me. You know, she might not agree. She might not be might be a little bit afraid, but if she believes in me, I've set the groundwork. I've gave the clarity. She can support me in accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. So that's why belief is so important. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Lots of golden nuggets in there, Ray. Thanks for sharing. And it's interesting when you talk about conflict that's natural within organizations and you start to grow, you get new points of view, new ideas in there. And it reminded me of a wisdom from Peter Drucker. He said only three things occur naturally in organizations, right? Friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything else requires leadership. And so that ability to lead through those times of uncertainty is so important so people can believe in the vision, right? And the vision requires clarity. People see it, and the closer you approach it, the clearer it gets. So whether it's at home or at work, leadership is the key, is always going to be the key to the kingdom. And it's an interesting thing about self-esteem. And it's something that's not ubiquitous in our society. It's not in abundance, at all. Regardless of how people dress, walk, or talk, a lot of times self-esteem is absent, right? True self-esteem is absent. So, as individuals, it's really important for us to work on the belief in ourselves. And one of the ways to do that is to look back, right, at the things we have done, at the things we have accomplished, at the things we have overcome, and say, hey, I've done all these other things. I've cleared all these other hurdles in my life, all these other obstacles. There's no reason why I can't clear this next one. So it's a simple technique, but it's very effective in having a foundation for your self belief, which is ultimately self esteem. With that, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, great topic of conversation. The title I wanted to go with this was Success by Design, Flawless Execution. Because as Ray was talking, he was talking about how how this seminar leaders have to instill this belief in order to get the people who follow them to give up, as a great wisdom I heard once said, give up the drop and become the ocean. How do you, if you don't, if a team isn't willing to give up the drop, the individual, sitting out there, that either underperforms or wants to ruin your company, somehow you have to get them to buy into the culture, or they'll have to be gone, just plain and simple. And so, but then if we're going to whittle that down to the individual, and Dr. Charlie mentioned the great Peter Drucker quote: each time you add something new to your plan, or someone new, something new, say it's an individual, you don't have a team, but you have yourself, but each time you bring in a new concept or a new path that you want to go down, you add something new to your repertoire, there's a learning curve, and it will create friction, confusion for you, conflict for you in your own mind and with your team and whoever's around you. So every time you look to level up, there's a great wisdom again that says at every new level, there's a new devil. There's something new to learn, something new to adapt, something new to grow. Think about the last time you attempted to change something, increase your simple things like working out. You want to work out to get in shape. There's going to be conflict there with your body. Your body's going to be hurting for a little while. You have to go on what you're eating, your diet, your meal plan. That's going to cause internal struggles. For every change, there has to be some disruption of your usual. You can't stay the same and expect change. They just don't work like that. So you will have some disruption. Add a new person to your team. If you're a business person, if you have a small team, big team, add a new person. They can either be add fuel to it, to what you're doing, or be the fly in the ointment. I smile when I see new business people tell me they have the perfect person. Oh, they're so amazing. They're so great. And 6 months in, oh no, they didn't work out. They become so attached to that new person. So you have to be willing to, again, trim the herd a little bit and to level up. But you're never going to find that perfect person right out the gate. I think you'd be very lucky to find a fit. But going back to the conversation of belief in yourself, and I think the other part, the leader has to instill is trust. They kind of go hand in hand, right? If the leader believes in the vision, I have a dream, and it's strong enough. We all know that speech, I have a dream speech. You galvanize millions of people, both black and white, Martin Luther King, with that speech, that I have a dream. And he was such a strong belief in that dream. He even knew that I may not be with you when this comes true, but it's going to happen. And some of us, and I won't say we all, I won't generalize, but some of us have heard the Walt Disney story of them interviewing his brother, Roy Disney. And they said when Walt passed before the park was finished, and the interviewer asked his brother, wouldn't he have loved to have seen what happened here? And he said he did. He saw it long before. This is his vision. And they carried it forward because he believed in it so much. It was so clear to him that it continued. So that leader, if you're not leading a team, if you want people to believe in your vision, and not get shook when somebody shows you a little bit of concern for your vision, or they detract from it, or they have a critique for your vision that's negative. If you stand on your mountain, your flag, plant your flag and stand on it, eventually people will come over and say, "Man, I always believed in you," when they really didn't. But they were checking you. They were checking to see how much commitment you had to this vision. So the leader, the individual, if they have a full commitment, they build trust. People come along. Imagine if the crazy ones didn't stick to. Do you think we'd be flying in planes? We'd be we'd let go of the horseless carriage, now called the car, and so on. Imagine trying to convince someone that you're gonna go in this metal tube and fly in hours where it used to take weeks, months sometimes to get to another land, and now you're there in hours. So belief is gotta be, and that's where trust comes in. The team's gotta trust you. Think about people who have led armies into battle. Good God, imagine you can't even get people to come to work sometimes, and you're gonna lead someone into battle and tell them, you know, that this is the outcome that we're gonna have. So belief is key in that trust. And Ray talked about, and Dr. Charlie talked about self-esteem. Self-esteem, yeah, it's a very complex um, topic about that. Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Great book for everybody who wants to talk about self-esteem, because he talked about that. He wrote about it. He was a plastic surgeon, and he said no matter how much plastic surgery you did on somebody, it wouldn't change their outlook and their level of self-esteem. It's all internal. So he wrote the book Psycho-Cybernetics. Classic. It's a classic book. See, every child was born with a healthy level of self-esteem. Healthy level of self-esteem. Courage, curiosity, adventure. It's innate in us. We it's part of us. Again, we would not be enjoying the life hopefully you are, enjoying the life you're living, the modern advancements, if people weren't curious, if they weren't courageous, if they didn't love adventure, we would not be enjoying what we're enjoying. So it's natural in us. However, your environment, I'm reading a great book that talks about, I think it talks about willpower and and goal setting, and they said the number one thing to change, to incorporate change, is your environment. Your environment's a crucial part of goal achievement. Who are you around? What are you around? Where are you around? It's very difficult to change your life if your environment doesn't facilitate that change. So everybody was born with self-esteem, a healthy level of self-esteem. However, your environment, the people you're around, the narratives that you heard really steal that self-esteem from you. And then you start to believe, after a few decades of hearing that and being hammered by, don't do this, don't do that, don't be adventurous, don't be curious, courage will cost you. We start to believe that and play safe. So, and when you think about it, this idea of trust and confidence, 93% of communication is nonverbal. 93. So I'm going to sniff you out. If you tell me you're going to do this, do that, I can hear you, first of all. I can hear the words coming from your mouth that they don't sound very confident. And I can smell you. You don't smell confident. Some leaders out there, we may call them narcissists. And, a lot of elite athletes are a little bit cocky, we call them. But it's because of their belief system. Everyone buys into them. So there is some strength to it. There's some weaknesses, but there's some strength to believing in. It's amazing the things you can make happen, right? Put a man on the moon, quote unquote. By the belief, by what you express to the world. So, anyways, we go on and on. I could give a whole seminar just on that. But yeah, self-esteem, confidence, belief, full commitment, trust. Those are all key to building this success, this design of your life, and flawless execution is if you start with that foundation. So with that, pass the mic.
Love it, guys, and so true. And one thing that I like about our conversations is that we often go deep and at the source, right? And I'm gonna attempt to do this right now. And hopefully we can translate it to business or anything else in life. When we look at children, okay, uh, life in general, okay, in general, if they have the right leadership, let's say from parents and everything else, life is generally simple for children. You know, they wake up, they want their food, they want to play, they want to learn, and that's about it. They want to be loved. It's simple. But as they grow up, and we've all been through this because most people listening to this are adults. Hopefully, we got younger people too, but we've all been through this. Things seem to get much more complicated, don't they? Okay. Things seem to get very complicated. And through all of that, okay, through the setbacks, through the challenges, this belief in ourselves often erodes. This self confidence, like Alvin just talked about, that we come in with, erodes. Okay. And that's when things start to get difficult. I see the same thing in businesses all the time where, hey, when they just start, things seem to be that much more simple. There's the fire of the founder, the inspiration, all of that. But then as things grow, things start to get really, really complicated and fractured. And the greatest leaders in those businesses are people who seem to be able to bring back simplicity in all this complexity, right? They bring back that simplicity. I believe it starts with three things, okay? Three things I'm going to talk about right now. The first one is identity, okay? And identity you can tie to clarity in different ways, is also the same thing, but who am I gonna be right now? And who are we going to be as an organization? Okay, set the stage for that now. Am I someone who's gonna show up? Am I someone who's gonna take care of my people? Am I someone who's always gonna put the client first? Am I someone? So you decide that, and you have one of my favorite words that you need to put in there. You have the courage to decide at this moment who you choose to be, okay? For yourself and for your organization. So people can hold on to that and see that before the results even show up. That's the most important thing. We look at Alvin right now, he looks shredded, right? He's 3 weeks out. Well, at some point, he decided, okay, he decided, I'm gonna do this way before the results showed up. But he made up his mind, this is who I am and this is what I'm gonna be. Let me turn this off. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So that's why identity is so important, guys. Okay, because it starts with that. From there, okay, when you decide your identity, and that's the coolest thing, guys, is that at every different moment of our lives and phases of our life, this identity may evolve, okay? And we have that choice. We always have that choice to respond like water, um, and become what we need to become at that moment. It's a decision, right? Identity. From there, evidence, okay? So I decided this, and through my works, through my discipline, through my commitment, through the things that I do every single day, through my consistency, okay, evidence starts to show. And when evidence starts to show, first, okay, I was inspired by this belief, okay, that the leader instilled in me as a teammate. So even before I see the results, hey, I'm fired up by this, I can be a part of this. Let me follow this person, let me join this thing. But if I don't see evidence after a certain point, I start to be like, hey, this person is full of whatever, they're just talking that talk, they're not really about it, they're not really doing everything. So evidence is so important, backing it up, becoming what you say you're gonna become. You're not gonna be all perfect, the next day, but it's this marathon. Am I showing up every single day, as we say? Okay, this brings belief, this gets people to trust you. Okay, from there, okay, so identity, uh second thing, evidence, and third thing is the environment. I believe Charlie talked about the environment, but at some point also I may start to get results, okay? I may be the strong leader, but if the environment isn't right, if I don't surround myself with the right resources, with the right people, this will put fractures in my armor. Because in the end, I'm human. We are all human, okay? If the environment is toxic for your team, they will leave, they will struggle. That's when the environment is so important. But all three of these things need to work together, because I can have the best environment, and that's often what I see in a lot of organizations. Okay, I see a good environment, but I see weak leadership, and what happens? It crumbles down. Okay, and oftentimes people, as I said, they've been taught how to manage, but they never learn how to lead. That's so important. They never set who they are. Every single day, when their team walks in, they see a different leader depending on what's happening right now. There's no anchor, right? That is so important. And over time, they don't see the evidence of this vision that's been talked about every single day, that's written on the walls. They don't see the evidence of it, okay? But at the same time, this environment for success, this environment of growth, this environment of trust needs to be nurtured every single day, and rinse and repeat, not only for our teams, but really for every single place in our lives. Even within our mind, our subconscious, when we tell it, okay, this is who I am right now. When we journal about it, when we write it down, when we show up every single day, deep down, this is who we are becoming, whether we think about it or not. And then through our works, the evidence of it reinforces that. And through the environments that we set, just being on this call, this is a great example of the environment that you set. It's just what you listen to, what you watch, who you surround yourself with. All of this comes together to elevate success and design it. Okay, design it. And when we think of it, it's not that complicated. Okay, it's not that complicated. It's actually pretty simple, but executing it, as I talked about today, is really our choice. And it doesn't take talent, it doesn't, it takes effort. Yeah, it takes effort, it takes commitment, it takes a couple little things, but in the end, none of it is truly complicated. So let's infuse simplicity back into our leadership. Okay, let's not make things that much bigger than they truly are. Let's just show up, be who we're supposed to be, create evidence of that by being consistent, by not giving up, by not being inconsistent by not saying, oh, today I don't feel like waking up. Oh, today I don't feel like doing this. No, this kills it every single time. And let's create the environment where we are inspired, most importantly, where we are accountable. Okay, accountable. That's another very big one, so that we can keep moving forward and progress to the next stage and the next stage, and then we just repeat this same cycle. And with this, I'll pass the mic.
Wow, a lot to chew on there, Ray. The thing that there's so many great points there, and the thing I want to key off of is just the environment, how critical that environment is, and all the things that contributed to it, right? Identity, evidence, like you said, belief, they all contribute. Simplicity, they all contribute to creating this environment where we can thrive as individuals or businesses. The environment is critical. And it made me think of I love trees, and I love the giant sequoia trees, right? And they're just massive trees, height, weight. I mean, they weigh thousands of tons. They're so big. But they only grow in certain parts of the world. And the reason why they only grow in certain parts of the world is because they have to have the right environment to reach those heights, to reach that size. And they have highways, they'll cut highways through some of them, right? They're so massive that you can drive cars through the trees in both directions. So it's an amazing thing, but without the right environment, those trees never succeed. So those trees have the potential to be hundreds of feet tall and to be thousands and weigh thousands of tons and provide all of this wood and provide homes for all this wildlife. They have the potential, but without that environment, the potential doesn't matter. It's never going to come to fruition. And so too many times we overlook the environment. And then when things don't succeed, we don't focus on the environment. We look at all these other factors when really the environment is the key. If I have any type of a plant, I love house plants. I have a rose, or I have an orchid, or I have a philodendron. Those plants are going to grow in the right environment. If they're not growing, there's nothing wrong with the plant. it's the environment. And so as human beings, sometimes we'll lose self-esteem because we're not thriving, because we're not in the right environment. But we don't focus on the environment, or we're not thriving. We blame ourselves. Our self-esteem goes down, when the reality is, if we get in the right environment, we can thrive. So the environment's always something that we need to keep our eye on and make sure that we're in the right environment, we're in the right system, we're around the right people, so we can maximize our potential as individuals. And without those factors in place, it's almost virtually impossible to maximize your potential without being in the right environment. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, great points to all. I'll go back to Ray, start with Ray. Ray talked about growing. Let's call it scaling. Scaling a business is expanding it and franchising, and just watching it grow, the expansion of the business. But again, another book I read, I think it's Darren Hardy, if I'm not mistaken, or Benjamin Hardy. He said you can't scale chaos, or you shouldn't anyways. You can't scale chaos. So simplicity is key. Ray talked about that. Bring back simplicity to your life. If you find that you're stuck, I remember I go back to a story when Dr. Hill, my mentor, every time we coached, he said, send me an update. So I would have to type out what's been going on over the month and, highlight. So you could get a little synopsis before we jump on the call. So I wrote this. At one point, I was going through some things. And I wrote this 2-page single line thesis, basically, telling him all these things that are going on. He sends me back 3 words: stick to fundamentals. And I was like, what the hell? Like, come on, man, give me more than that. What am I paying you for here? 3 words? But like a Jedi, I was thinking about it. What the hell does that even mean? He's a pretty smart guy. And he's right. I had too much chaos going on. I had to go back to fundamentals, the simplicity of things, over complicating it. So yes, it's essential that you shouldn't, and it's also difficult to scale chaos. You have to have your systems down and everything right, your fundamentals. Go back to fundamentals. If you're finding you're stuck in your company, your business, your personal life, whatever, then maybe you have it too complex. Maybe you're saying yes to the good things, distractions, and you should be saying no to those and a yes to only the things that light your fire, not give you the instant or the immediate gratification. You want to just light your fire and keep that going. So go through an inventory in your mind and your life, your journal. And what am I doing right now to complicate my journey? Who's on my team? Who's distracting me? Who's in my environment that's taken away from that vision? Because you shouldn't scale chaos. And then Ray talked about identity. This identity conversation. That's a key part, actually, because the same brain that created your chaos oftentimes can't be the same brain that solves it. Sometimes you have an identity problem, meaning you want to sit at a table of important people. However, you feel like you should be serving the meal to them and not sitting at the table. And then somehow you got there, and now you have the whole phenomena called imposter syndrome. You feel like you don't belong. And then you don't add value, and eventually the table becomes too big for you. You have to leave the table. So identity is crucial. Identity, figuring out what your gifts are and the confidence you have. And you must be proactive in creating your identity, by the way. Sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. I know some people don't like that term, but it's true. Sometimes, because you know what? You're faking lack of confidence right now, anyways. You're faking, I don't deserve this, anyways. That's a fake. It's not real. You do deserve everything you have. You have worked your butt off to get there. You've educated yourself. You've done the course. You've stayed up late. You've gone, woke up early. You've done the work. Why are you then playing small? You want to tell me that's not an identity issue? That is an identity issue. So why don't you be proactive in creating the identity then if you think you don't have it? Because I love that journey that they took on the yellow brick road, and they got to the end, finding out that whatever they were looking for, the heart, the brain, they were looking for all these things, and they already had it in them. You already have everything in you. You just have the wrong identity, and you need to design that. Sometimes if you're not proactive in creating it, the world will create the identity for you. Right? So put all these things together. Uh, this is where it can lead to your design. So the fundamentals are everything we just talked about. Your environment. You can't grow an oak tree in a pot. It will never grow to be its size if it's in a little pot. So your environment is crucial. Your self-esteem is crucial. The belief you have for your dream, which then builds trust, confidence. Your self-esteem, where is it? Where is your self-esteem? You can't outgrow your self-esteem. You can't just show up to this is where you build your house on sticks. You'll get to the success you want, and all of a sudden you think, oh God, how did I get here? They're gonna figure me out. That I don't belong here. Because you're hearing narratives in your head about who do they think you are, and it's all coming from your past. You work your butt off to get there. stay in the game, and even level up. You can't dream big enough. It's another thing Dr. Tom Hill used to say to me. You can't dream big enough. And now when I'm working with clients, they figured that out. That dream that they had, now they achieve it. They're like, oh my God, I'm still only a year in and I achieved my dream. My goals are all checked off. Oh boy, what am I gonna do next? You can't dream big enough. So, anyways, again, lots here. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
It's true that we can't dream big enough,
Can't.
and
You cannot.
no, we can't. And one of you two talked about Disney uh,
Yeah.
when we started today, and I'll never forget it when we went there for my son's 5th birthday. And I remember on the first night, I was on the boat going towards Magic Kingdom, fireworks, all over the place, and I'm looking at this thing, and what popped in my mind was, hey, this was an idea that was in someone's mind. None of this existed.
Hmm.
You know, there was no proof, there was no result. It was just in someone's mind and in someone's dream. And when my whole stay there, the amount of details, okay, details was crazy. I remember going to Epcot and we walked through French Town, and I speak French. Every employee there spoke French. They they were very intentional of making it real where if I spoke French, they could answer me in French. That amount of details. So man, when you're talking about belief, the people that work there, they call them cast members. Hey, they don't just show up for a paycheck, and you could see it. They were bought in, 100%. They were Disney cast members when they were out there to create that kind of culture, that aligns with this type of belief that they are. I truly believe they think they're making the world a better place. They think they're a different type of place on earth, and that's what I felt like. I felt like I wasn't even in the US. I felt like I was at Disney. It's like a separate place. That's really what we felt like. So you're right, we can't dream big enough. And something that we also talked about, that I'm hearing is the concept of chaos. And I went online and I found these wisdoms. The first one from Stephen Hawkins that says that chaos, when left alone, tends to multiply. It tends to multiply, and it can ruin even the greatest of empires. Okay. Chaos is a dangerous thing. But then I found this other wisdom from Carl Jung that says, in all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. So, as we know, pain is non negotiable, chaos is part of life. Okay? Leadership is not being perfect, it's not knowing it all. It's really just learning the principles that allow you to navigate through the chaos and find the cosmos within it, find the order within it, and hold on to it, and then manifest it until the next chaos comes around, because it will. That's truly part of life. And same thing for us as individuals. There are simple principles that if we follow, they tend to bring us back where we need to be, because we will all drift away. That's why the pyramids are such a mystery to mankind, because from the first block to the last one, the precision is amazing. And we know if we're doing this by hand, hey, we might think this is straight, but when you get to the top, just this little deviation will make a huge difference, right? Same thing for our lives. We might trying to get to one direction, but without following the right principles, we deviate, and that's how chaos introduces itself. This is our way home every single time. This is our compass, and we all hold it. We all get to hold it. And if there's one thing I'm getting from all of the great wisdom I've listened to and acquired today, and I'll remember is that I get to hold that compass, and we all do. Am I bringing it along with me on my journey, or am I forgetting it? It serves me and all of us to keep it in our hand and to just follow that North Star. And no matter what chaos brings around, there's always a cosmos, there's always order to be found within it. That's what great leaders do for themselves, for their team, and for the environment around them. They always seem to find a way to bring back order instead of letting it multiply and seeing it multiply. And with this, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, this discussion really brings me back to another wisdom, and actually, this is something that I came across this week. Hadn't really focused on it before, but the more I thought about it as the week progressed, the more sense it made. And I think it goes right along with the discussion today. And it's a wisdom from Nick Saban. And he said, outcomes are a distraction. Focusing on the process of what you do to get the outcome is the most important thing you can do. So everything we've talked about today is about that process of creating success in your life. It's about that process of creating success in your business. It's about that process of creating success with yourself, with your mindset. But if we're always looking off into the distance about, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds, or hey, and we don't focus on the process of what it takes to achieve that weight loss goal, then we're kind of treading water. We're kind of going in circles. But when we're focused on the process, then inevitably that outcome comes closer and closer and closer and closer to us until we can reach out and grab it. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
All right, awesome. I'm going to close this up with a couple thoughts to follow up with what Ray and then Dr. Charlie said. Ray, the chaos, chaos when left alone can multiply. And in all chaos, there's a cosmos. A couple things you said there, Ray, that it's another conversation for another. As you're saying it, I was thinking about, in my very limited knowledge on quantum physics, where they talk about this idea of waves and particles. Waves, when you're not looking at something, it becomes a wave, so it's nondescript. It could be anything, amorphous, it could be anything, and then the minute it becomes conscious to you, it becomes a particle and a thing. So, but your consciousness is key to making it a thing. The car that you never noticed before, the shoe, the item that you never knew existed until somebody pointed it out, all of a sudden you see it everywhere because now it moved from a wave to a particle. And so, what does that even mean to tie into this? Well, leadership. In every organization, there's chaos. A leader creates that consciousness that brings things together and moves from chaos to order, kind of like the particles and the waves. Our consciousness. So the level of the leader's ability to show up and be certain, be standing in the pocket with that belief, with that trust, that's where you move from this weird waveform to almost like magnets on that paper or metal filings on a paper. That's chaos in your business. Metal filings all over the paper. The leader comes in and he's a magnet. She's a magnet. And they apply and everything goes in line, comes together. And now they become something substantial. Moves from chaos to something firm. That's a whole topic for another conversation. But that tells about the belief. Your dreams are out there in the wave form. Your thoughts now creates the particle and it becomes a thing. And the more you work at it, things appear in your life. And now it becomes real. Everything we're experiencing right now, the listeners, us, it was a thought at one point. Your kids, your partner, your business, Dr. Charlie's speaking gigs, all of that was chaos. And then he got a belief system and it became real. And next you know, now he's booking and it's his life now. Before it was this nondescript waveform, and now it's his life. Ray, same thing. Ray refused to go comfortable. Ray could be working in a nice corporate job, and that is it right now. But he's also right now he's strategically working here to gather information, but he's got this big vision that it's in the waveform. It's coming closer and closer to the particle, to the order. Same as myself. So believe in it needs you. Your belief, that waveform that you have in your mind, listeners, this thing, you want something. It's not very clear yet, but feeling inside you is that chaos. It's that you're not settled. Some people kill that feeling and then life goes by. But some people, it's so strong, they can't kill it. When they try to kill it, it's going to kill them. But it has to come forward. And all of a sudden, they get galvanized. They get a belief system. They said, no more. I remember the wisdom that says, courage is not the absence of fear. It's that something else is more important. So that thing you have is more important. And it becomes that waveform. So it becomes a particle, move from a waveform to a particle. I'm going to end there because I could go on about this stuff. I love talking about our potential. But I'll leave it there. So here's my one word that I want to leave it with. Belief. I'm going to grab that word before anyone else does. The belief is everything. If you show up to me and tell me that you want this thing, I'm going to give you okay, yeah, you want it. Or I'm going to go, I'm not sure if I'm buying in because you say it, but I just don't feel it. Belief. With that, I'll pass the mic.
You guys gave me a new way to evaluate leaders, and I wrote it down. I said, okay, a great leader brings chaos to order in any organization or team. So a
Absolutely.
simple question to leaders would be, right now, are you bringing more chaos or more order? That's really how you evaluate it. So thanks for that. You took my word.
That's what I
I'll
did.
go
I
with
thought so.
you did that.
Mhm.
I'll go with order. Order. So whenever we step towards order, good things happen. Whenever we go towards the light, good things happen. And we can feel it, we can sense it. Let's keep walking towards that. And I'll pass the mic.
My word's going to be process, right? We need to have a process. We need to continually make adjustments to our process, and we need to stick with our process. And ultimately, we're going to succeed.
Amen. Amen. So, listeners, I hope. Okay, I'm going to leave it the other wisdom, my mentor. I love saying his name because right now he was a blessing in my life, and right now he's going through his and I will carry his name on, Dr. Tom Hill. He gave me another wisdom I'm going to leave you with. As long as I'm around, his name will be in your head too. His wisdom was this: one idea, well executed, can change your life forever. So you heard us talk about a lot of things on here. We don't expect you to leave with all of them. We expect you to have this one idea, one thing you took away that you're going to apply, journal on it, span it, tease it out, and how does it apply in your life? One idea well executed can change your game, your life, your business, your relationship forever. So what's the one idea? And that's why we leave you with one word. That's our word. What's your word? So until next week, next time we see on or listen to you or chat to you on this podcast, connect with us, like, subscribe, share. We're here. We're putting in this work for you because we are passionate. Remember, as I said during the podcast, that what's in you, if you don't release it, it will destroy you. Well, this is our way of releasing what's inside of us. This is a passion project. So like, subscribe, share. And before we go, we always want to wish you what? Because this world needs it. Peace, man.
Peace.
And also needs what? Love.
Love.
But with a sprinkle of soul.
Soul.
All right. Until next time, everybody, have a great week. Make it successful. Peace and love. We're out.